But let's turn our attention to that room. This has been a tough week for the linebacker room at Ohio State. Obviously, what happened last night is going to grab a lot of the headlines. But just a couple hours earlier, a couple days earlier, Dallas Gant enters the transfer portal. He had far less pomp and circumstance around his leaving the Buckeyes. But we're talking now about two guys that a lot of people expected, because of their upperclassmen nature, a lot of people expected they were going to be at the forefront of what's going on here in 2021. They kind of got stuck in the logjam the last several years behind Pete Werner and Tuff Borland and Justin Hilliard and Baron Browning were all, legitimately great Buckeyes and NFL futures for a couple of them. I'm hopeful that this is not some signal of adversity within that room, and maybe more just a couple cases of guys that are frustrated, that thought they were going to have their opportunity, that waited their turn, and it's not working out that way. You've obviously been around this a lot, closer than most of us have. Can you give us some perspective before diving into maybe the Buckeye specifics? Can you give us some perspective about just what it takes to be the kind of player who has to sit and wait your turn, and then maybe that turn doesn't come, the way you foresee it?
Humility personified. It takes a special human being. Every single one of these guys are recruited at a very high level. They're recruited by the best teams in the country. They're told that they're going to come to these universities, have incredible opportunities on and off the field. And when they don't see that manifest in a timely fashion, it's a me, now type of culture. And for a linebacker to sit there and watch a group that's not doing great and say, hey, this is supposed to be my time, and then to be passed over again, it's hard. It's humbling. It's a difficult situation. But it comes back to the recruiting process. When you evaluate a young man in the recruiting process, you have to be able to take into account his character. And everybody says they do that, but if you truly do that and you really read a kid, you have some sort of understanding of who he is, where he comes from, who's mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, coaches. How does he interact with people in his school? One of the things I always did when I walked into a school, most schools, you walk into the school, you've got an appointment with the coach, you walk in, a secretary greets you, hey, coach, how are you? And they have a student that walks you to the class to go pick this guy up or to the coach. When I would walk with the students, the first thing I would ask them is, hey, I'm here to see Brendan Gulick today. Tell me about Brendan Gulick. And you see a big reaction because that kid has nothing invested in this opportunity to talk to you about this student. You would not believe the amount of things I heard negatively and positively about student athletes going into it. And then I was able to ask the coach about it, maybe go ask a teacher, maybe go ask another secretary, a janitor, whoever it may be that has contact with that young man to figure out whether or not he's going to gel with the culture that you're trying to cultivate every single day. Every single coach in America talks about culture. Culture is built and lived every single day. And there was a sign when I first started John Carroll. I'll never forget this. We talked about when you recruited somebody that guy, if he was the wrong fit for you, he affected you 365 days of the year. If you missed on that guy, he can only affect you one of those 365 days a year, assuming you're playing against him. And I always remember thinking about that and going, you know what? There's a great thought to that and a great meaning behind it is making sure you don't rush into a relationship. You have to figure the thing out. Young people out there that are dating, you and I are both spoken for. You don't go on a date and then that night go, well, let's move in together and start a family and see where it goes from there. No, you go on multiple dates. You go and investigate. You figure out what's the right things and the wrong things to make sure that it's a harmonious relationship. Al Washington is a great football coach. He's a great mentor of men. Everywhere he's been, the place has gotten better because of Al's efforts. Right now, he's dealing with, we've seen now 2 guys leave that room. There has to be something else going on in that linebacker room at Ohio State right now that the rest of us don't see. And that is the issue that lies in hand. We talk about the technique of the linebackers. We talk about the lack of explosive plays by this linebacker group. When you are, as a coach, are spending majority of your time appeasing players than being able to truly develop and coach the guys that want to be there, it's a tough way of going about it. And unfortunately, every single coach in America can attest to that. We've all been there at different points in our careers where there's that one guy you have to take care of. And it's when you drop that one little bit of oil and water, it ruins the entire room. And that's unfortunately such a big part of a defense. It could be plaguing this defense as well. And that's a big aspect of where going forward, Ohio State hopefully was going to get better because of this, allow Washington to develop these guys the same way Matt Barnes, like I said in the opening, was very aggressive and get these guys involved. And it's going to be interesting to see going forward how these guys react, how they play, and if they're the guys that are going to be the ones that turn the ship for Ohio State's linebacker room.